All right, guys, how you guys doing? Welcome to another Monday night edition of BMX Coach Live. I'm your host, Greg Romero, three-time Olympic coach, former professional, and I'm here to help you thrive, experience your potential, and also win more races, and also sustain your potential. Anyways, tonight we have an awesome show. As always, we always have a live guest that's in the audience. So if you're on the replay, make sure you click on the live chat. That way you could follow along as you're watching the replay. Also, if you guys haven't already, make sure that you not only like the video if you found value, but if you found value, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you guys get notified when I go live, or also when I post. And tonight we have several guests. We have the regulars coming back. Again, if you guys had an awesome Christmas, great. If you guys don't do Christmas, great. Merry Christmas to you guys. And we only have a few more days until the turn of the new year, 2021. And that brings in a lot of different changes. And of course, when it comes to our world, our model of the world of BMX racing, flat pedals are back, right? Especially for the 12 and under crowd. And I wanted to talk about the benefits of going back to flat pedals, but also I really want to exploit some of the challenges that a lot of riders are going to be facing when they're going from clip pedals and then back to flat pedals. Let's take a look and see who's in the audience. We have Kalos Salazar, hi coach. JP from Canada. Jacob James talking about flats. He says flats. All right. Club BC Cross, Merino Valley News, Roscoe H, Brady F, BMXer 123, Andy Lim, Tim Waters, Drew Polk. Let's see here. Dylan McGann, Chris Child. Man, guys, thank you so much. Aaron Greenreich. Man, you guys are all at home on the internet tonight. This is great. The Outdoors Geese, Shane Hughes. A in the K, Cody H from Maryland. Let's see. Did I miss anybody else? Mike Morris. Please forgive me if I mispronounced your name. Elena says, hi, coach. Hey, guys. Man, I'm stoked. How many of you guys are actually clipped in or on flats in our audience, right? I mean, obviously, a lot of you guys are over the age of 13 and expert, but are there any of you guys that are over the age of 13 and are purposely racing flats? Leave a comment. Let our community know. Now, on to the show. I'm getting a text from Tyler Brown. Let's see, that's pretty funny. Yo, what's up, G? Hope you and Nicole had a good Christmas. He's talking about doing some awesome racing, wants me to help him out. So I was about to read the text, but I don't think he probably wouldn't like that. But looks like he's looking to do some cool things at the San Diego BMX Racing facility that he has over here in San Diego. It's technically called Kearney Motor Park, and on the 1st they're going to be having a pro-am. What do you say? I think we're going to donate some money. Some of the money you guys have been donating, guys like JP and please forgive me, there's a bunch of names. We're going to take some of that money. We're going to put it towards the whole shot. What do you guys say? I think that would be pretty neat. We're definitely going to do that. So if you guys are in the live super chat, you guys want to donate money, we'll definitely, it's going to be on your guys' behalf. We're going to definitely put that up for the whole shot. They're going to have a pro-am for both the males and also the females. So that should be pretty cool. And what do you think? I got these gold $100 bills. So we'll do something like $100 for each one. I better let them know. They don't know it, but I use these for like bookmarks, right? I was giving these as gifts, but anyways, before I get off in a tangent, Dave Parnell says, hi, coach. And then, yes, thank you so much. And then we have a bunch of people coming in about flats and clips and whatnot. But yeah, let's talk about it because the USA BMX, I'm over here reading the rule changes on my phone. And one of the key things that they said was an overwhelming majority of coaches felt like too many riders were being put on clips too soon in their BMX careers. The coaches felt like riders who were put on clips too soon in order to be competitive on the racetrack were missing out on learning some fundamental bike handling skills. For the riders who race in international BMX races like the World Championships, many other countries began banning clipless pedals for the riders under age 12 long before USA BMX did. We introduced a clipless pedal change a few years back to give riders and the manufacturers who make clipless pedals and shoes, in addition to flat pedals, time to prepare for the change. We believe in the coaches who work with these kids day to day and feel that ultimately our sport will be better in the long run by keeping those 12 and under riders on flat pedals. Interesting, because I didn't get the memo. I must have been sleeping, but I was never involved on that conversation, believe it or not. And so I think that's kind of funny. At the end of the day, I don't know if flat pedals are a reason as to why skills are lacking. Let's go abstract here. And one of the reasons why is because at the end of the day, people are really good at things that they truly care about, right? I mean, think about it. There's guys that are great at making YouTubes because they care about making YouTube videos. There's guys that are really good at their gate starts because they care about their gate starts. There's guys that are good at manualing, but they suck at everything else because they care about manualing, right? Like at the end of the day, people are really good at things that they care about. So I would say at the end of the day, me being a coach, observing riders, I sometimes don't believe that pedals are necessarily an inhibiting factor in terms of preventing someone from advancing their skills. I just don't really buy that. I think it's BS. Listen, I would say I can give you many reasons why I like clips. I mean, I got scars on my face, right? I got one right here and one right here from slipping pedals and smashing into jumps and having to go to the hospital and wearing open face helmets. But, at the end of the day, listen, I don't think that, if I look back about 10 years ago, right, there was a girl that raced pro and she never left the ground. She pumped the entire time. She was strong as heck. Her name was Dominique Daniels. I don't know if you guys remember her, but she never jumped and she didn't have to. So flat pedals, is that going to really inhibit her ability to win races? I don't know. I just don't see it, right? If you're clipped in, is that going to really prevent you from learning how to manual? I don't know. I doubt it. I really do. And so, maybe is it bunny hopping? Okay. Now, but how often do we actually bunny hop on the track? Now, there are a couple different fundamental moves that involve a micro type bunny hop, such as jet hops, like when we do a pull manual, or you basically do a tap manual. Okay, that's kind of a bunny hop move, but I don't think being on clipless pedals is going to prevent you from learning that. Listen, when I learned how to snowboard, if someone learns how to snowboard but they never skateboarded prior to that, is that really going to prevent them from advancing their skills of snowboarding? All right, so let's talk about the riders, the parents, and there's probably going to be more parents watching this for their 12 and under kids. I don't know if 12 and unders are on YouTube. If they're on another social platform, let me know in the comments below. I really don't know. And, at the end of the day, I wrote down some notes here. I was thinking about it when I was taking a shower earlier and I was cleaning the house, vacuuming and scrubbing the sink. I just have this bad habit of cleaning. I just have to get the place clean. But I was thinking about what are some of the challenges that some of these 12 and under riders who have been seasons after season racing with clipless pedals, and all of a sudden they're going to be forced to race with flat pedals. Okay, first and foremost, the sky is not falling. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But I would say at the end of the day, there's a couple of things that people are going to have to heed caution on here. Number one, you're going to have to learn how to pedal again, because the bottom line is your legs are not used to being clipped in, obviously. So what does that mean? That means you're going to have to consciously build up the neurological system of keeping the feet attached to the pedals. That's going to be the biggest challenge I would say, for some of these riders. They're going to have to transfer back over to flat pedals. And so pedaling is going to be a big, maybe not, right? But it's going to be somewhat of a challenge, right? Because they're not going to be able to pedal as fast as they would like, especially out of the gate. But more importantly, when you're at speed and you're flying at speed, say after the first jump, and you really have the RPMs going and you're ramped up and your legs are jacked up and you're going, it's going to be hard for a rider to keep the feet on the pedals, especially if mentally they're used to going a certain cadence if they try to go that cadence, they might find their feet are going to get loose. So I would say the biggest thing that they're going to have to do is learn how to pedal again. Again, it has to do with proprioceptively and neurologically. The feet need to stay attached. And what are the main muscles there? You may ask. And so it's going to be the glute medius and also the inner thigh muscle, right? So it's going to be the inner thigh muscle, outer thigh muscle. That's going to help keep the foot tracked on the pedal. Let me grab a pedal. Please forgive me. Let me grab a pedal. I got a box of pedals. All right. So all right. Please forgive me. Thank you so much for waiting on me on this delay here, but here we go. Cool. Got a box of pedals. Here are the flat pedals I used to race with. GT He-Mans. They look like a He-Man. Anyways, it's going to be hard for a rider. The main part is kind of doing this side-to-side motion. So you're going to need a lot of outer thigh engagement to purposely keep the foot on the pedal. All right, that's going to be a big challenge. And so the inner and outer thigh muscles are going to be, at the end of the day, the muscles that are going to need to be retrained. So what can you do? You can work on stand-start sprints, and also you can work on flying sprints where you're actually starting and beginning the sprint at speed. And I would do it like in a bicycle-friendly area of about, of a grade of 2 to 3% if you can find one. All right, if you're in Florida, you're going to have to go in an overpass, something that's bicycle-friendly, and it's, there's an area where you can ride bikes safely or away from cars. And so if you don't have that, then get on a pair of rollers, right? Rollers are going to be a great way for you to challenge yourself, because rollers don't have a whole lot of resistance. And so you want something that doesn't have a whole lot of resistance where you're forced to pedal faster than what your normal maximum ceiling is at the track. So, so that's going to be the main thing there, right? The next challenge, of course, is, the gate start, right? The gate start is going to be really weird because you're not going to be able to really be aggressive as you once were with the clipless pedals, where you can really launch the head and shoulders first and try to keep the shoulders over the handlebar grips like I preach all the time. And so what's going to happen is that second pedal, it's going to want to come off the pedal. Like when you're sweeping back, it might just slip off, right? You may find that. I actually found that when I was practicing gates, going back to flat pedals. I had a hard time keeping my foot on that back pedal when I completed that first stroke. And so, these are little things that you have to think about. And then, another thing about the gate start, okay, before the gate even starts, you're going to find that naturally, okay, so if this is the ball of my foot, all right, if that makes sense, let's just say, maybe this way is going to be better. My knuckles, okay, let's just say that's the ball of the foot. Okay, ball of the foot on clipless pedals are going to be right over the spindle typically. That's where we like it. On flat pedals, it's going to be weird. It's hard to pedal on the ball of the foot on flat pedals because our foot wants to naturally wrap around and try to keep it attached. So we tend to kind of like push our toes forward, and therefore we're a little bit more on the arch of the foot. Now we're on the arch of the foot. So mechanically that has changed as well. That's not a bad thing. It's just that we're doing that so because our bodies, it wants to grab around, right? With clips, we could just put it on there and our foot's nice and flat. You're attached. You don't have to worry about clutching, in an effort to grip the pedal so you don't slip. You're good. You're good. So we're going to naturally, go from ball of the foot to, arch of the foot. And that's not a bad thing. So you're going to find that you're going to be a little bit more in the heel. And when you're a little bit more in the heel, you're going to want to stand up and extend a little bit more. So that's what's going to happen with your gate start, is that riders may find that their head may pop up a little bit, and that's okay. Just make sure that your eyes are still on the ground. Things are going to change, really, really subtly. Like my trained eye, I can see it. Most eyes won't see it, but I can see it. and it's going to be a little bit different. So we're talking a little bit of a hesitation. We're talking. It's going to be a little bit different and something that your rider is going to need to reprogram. And so you could do that by obviously doing a ton of gates. And of course, I would say doing a lot more stand start sprints, right? Stand start is just basically, using a box and just overcoming inertia. Check this out. Does anyone have one of these? I need to do a review on one of these. This is a sprint block, but basically, you can use one of those or use a standard step stool from your mother's kitchen. You can get one from Home Depot. You can also do opposite foot starts with flat pedals, and that way the rider is used to being in that optimal acceleration position, and they're already starting with the shoulders over the grips, and then you're retraining that whole chain, right, between the hands all the way to the shoulders, down through the hips, down through the three joints of the knee, the hip, knee, and ankle joints, and just starting off your sprint being in that position of having the shoulders over the bars, the opposite foot forward. It's really awkward, but if you could do that, that's going to help improve that delay and also the delivery of power. You're going to need to reprogram all that stuff. So you're going to need to reprogram the sprint, the gate, the acceleration, the second pedal. We haven't even begun skills yet. So now when it comes to skills, I don't believe it's going to be a whole lot different. You may find that, listen, I think with pumping, you're just going to want to go out there and just learn how to pump aggressively again, because I tend to find that we do tend to use our feet a little bit more. Again, we don't have to think about it, right? It's unconscious, but we tend to use our feet as far as like micro hops when we're pumping aggressively and just kind of just, picking up on, flexing through the knees and the hips and then bring that bike up and then pushing down. You're not going to be able to just easily pick up on the bike through flat pedals. It's going to be different. So you're going to need to learn how to practice pumping again. And it shouldn't take long, just practice those and learn how to get comfortable with manualing again and clips. And also jumps. Now with clips, we're going to talk about, because I did get a question through email of a gentleman that wanted to actually go from flats to clips. So we will touch on that. But yeah, jumping, you may find that the pumping is a little bit different in terms of muscles below the hips. So I would say you're going to have to learn how to use the hips a little bit more, learn how to lower your center of gravity a little bit more in an effort to absorb and also extend through to generate speed on the front side and back side of each jump. Does that make sense? Is there any questions? Are you guys finding any value to this? Let's check the chat. And the chat is definitely active today. You guys are doing well. Thank you so much. In terms of a pro, in terms of being on flats, I would say from a strategy and tactical, I think you could be a little bit more aggressive, and especially in the turns. So I would also practice putting your foot out and dragging your foot. Now, the only problem with that is that if you get used to making moves with your foot out, what's going to happen when you're going to want to clip back in? You're going to want to learn how to clip back out and clip back in turns as well. I think that's a skill that anybody that races with clips needs to do. I used to do that a lot. And you can be a little bit more aggressive with flat pedals in the turns. And so I'm looking to see if that's going to be true or not in terms of the racing, and seeing if it's not so much follow the leader as it has developed since the introduction of clipless pedals. But yeah, aren't these pedals cool? These are the GT He-Man pedals. I got quite a few pairs here. I got a stack of them, and they are going for a premium, and all the parts from the 90s, they just keep going up like Bitcoin. But yeah, you're not going to find, I don't know if cage pedals are going to be popular again. I mean, there's a lot of manufacturers out there that are just, if you take away the cage, a lot of manufacturers are making pedals with just the pins. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the pins are good enough. And so, I'm not going to get into the equipment in terms of like shoes and whatnot. At the end of the day, Get some good pedals, and that way it doesn't really matter what the shoe is. I mean, Vans, 510s, go with something that, that's comfortable, something that fits your foot. All right, where are we at? Hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, lots of sprints, reprogramming the gates, lots of stand start sprints, lots of maximum speed sprints with flat pedals. If you guys don't have safe downhill areas, then you could do little tricks like using rollers. If you don't have rollers, then maybe you could bump the gear down, maybe 2 or 3 gears, and have them spin out and get used to pedaling faster than they normally would on a BMX track with their raised gear. Another thing is as well is that, again, I think pedals are getting better. I think shoes, there's lots of different shoes out there that are going to stick well to the pedals. The challenge is going to be to try to keep the foot adhere to the pedal, right? Slipping pedals, that's the number one reason why I've always loved clipless pedals over flat pedals, is because I've been prone to slip pedals. And when I slip pedals, maybe it was a pedal, I don't know, but when I slip pedals, I mean, I got scars on my shins, but I have a really big one on the back of my calf from slipping pedals at a race one time. And I slipped a pedal, my calf grabbed it like that, and I went through the rhythm section with my calf on the pedal, and it freaking ripped a hole open. I couldn't race for the rest of the weekend, and I think I had to get like 17 stitches. It was wide open, gnarly. All right, let's check out. I want to finish up this one question coming in, and of course we're going to go to the Ask Coach G section, where the live audience is going to ask me questions as it pertains to BMX racing and training performance. And let's see what these guys are talking about here. I did ask these guys a question earlier. Anybody over the age of 13 on flats? Elena says she's on flats. Let's see here. Outdoor Geese, 9 flat. Yeah. Aiden, 17. He's on clips. Let's see here. Aaron Greenreich is just starting with clips, 51 intermediate. Awesome, because he says he's not racing in them yet. The plan is for clips in 2021. Yeah, Aaron, so if you have any questions, please let me know, man, and we'll definitely get to you. But I'm going to go over an email that someone sent me that inspired the chat, and it's going to help those that are going from flats to clips. Not only are we talking about going from clips to flats, but we're also going to be talking about going from flats to clips. So Roscoe H says, 31 years old. He uses flats at the dirt jump trails, of course, but usually race clipped in. He says he's always clipped in on mountain bike and road. Yeah, I agree. A in the K says every 12-year-old is on YouTube. Yeah, I agree. And I don't know if they actually come and participate checking out BMX training, because, at the end of the day, we're talking about BMX racing performance. These guys want to be entertained. Let's see. Davey Parnell, have never tried clips on the track properly. What does that mean, Davey? I'm interested. Let me know. Jacob James, I had a younger rider tell me he didn't want to jump the tabletop because he wasn't in clips. He says, shame. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Maybe he was using clips as a way to catch air, or, maybe he just found that he's adapted to a certain technique with clips, and with flats, it's different, right? Like, now riders are going to be forced to actually, if they want to catch air, that was something we didn't touch on, but if they want to jump something, they're going to be forced to pull up on the handlebars a little bit. And then, of course, I would say finesse the bike to where the rear end is kind of coming up in the hip. So they're going to have to do that without the use of pulling up on the pedals, which is fine. I mean, I've never done that. I've never actually purposely pulled up on my rear end in an effort to get the rear end up through the pedals. I think just naturally by pushing the handlebars down, and then, basically kind of use that momentum of getting my knees flexed so the rear end does come up, and pushing my hips back. That's how I would get the rear end up. I don't know, but all right, let's see here. Mark Dern, I just flat out don't want my feet locked onto a pedal. Yeah, man, I hear you. It's weird at first, and if for what purpose do you not want that your feet locked onto a pedal? That's even a better question, right? Cool. All right, and let's see here. I want to go to the question that I got in the email. It says, "Hey, Coach G, I returned to racing in 2020 after a 24-year break. I'm 42 years old and have just moved to the intermediate class where everyone uses clipless pedals, which I'm brand new to. To be competitive at this level, I know I'm going to have to make the transition. What advice can you give to somebody that has raced with flats pretty much forever? Where do I start? Any advice will help. Thanks." Now, and this is from a guy named Brian B. I'm not going to say his last name because maybe he wants to keep it on the down low, so I'll respect that. I would say, Brian, and for the rest of you guys that want to get into clipless pedals, coming off flat pedals, listen, I would say at the end of the day, nothing has changed a whole lot, right? Like we just had a comment coming from Mark Dern that says he just doesn't want his feet to be locked in. Let's see what he says. Okay, bear traps will mess you up. Yeah, I agree, man. Um, yeah, he just doesn't want his feet. Why do you need clips is a better question for me. Okay, that's great, Mark. And at the end of the day, I would say it's to each individual. I'm not going to tell you it's better. I know for me, I have my reasons as to why they're better, and many riders believe they're better for them, and you may find that they're not better for them. So it's by no means it's not an absolute. It's not a universal truth, right? That clipless are better or faster. I just know at the end of the day, it's a little bit more efficient with clipless pedals. So that's one of the benefits. Number two, the big benefit for me was I don't want to slip my pedal, right? And so, and maybe that's just because I'm just maybe a lazy flat pedal rider, but I would say at the end of the day, that's not necessarily true because when I'm going all out as a double A pro and I'm going for the win and money's up for grabs, and, just one slight error and I'm coming off the pedals. And again, I've had some gnarly accidents by slipping a pedal. Clipless pedals, I would say, is probably more, especially in the intermediate class, like this guy Brian B asked. He says, he feels like he needs to be competitive. He seems to think that he needs as a resource to be faster that he needs clipless pedals. Okay, that's up for debate, and I would agree with just about anybody that wants to debate with that. I don't know if you need them. I don't know if you do. Whatever you believe is 100% true to you. And so I would say you want to definitely consider clipless pedals because at the end of the day, you don't have to use two primary muscles. You get to eliminate those. You don't have to worry about your feet coming off. And then all you have to do is focus on triple extension of the ankle, knee, and hip without having to keep the foot on. That's a big advantage to me. That's a big advantage. And so there's an efficiency factor. Clips just don't make you faster by default. You still have to extend through the hip, knee, and ankle joint. That being said, you could still just go as fast as anybody that's on clip pedals if you're on flat pedals just by improving your power. You can improve your power through sprint training. You can improve your power through strength training. Okay, so yes, you don't necessarily need to have clipless pedals, especially in the intermediate class. However, if you feel like psychologically it's going to give you a marginal gain and you're ready for it and your skills are ready for it, then by all means, then do it. I'm not going to sit here and say no, and I'm not going to necessarily say, hell yes, go for it either. I really think it comes down to what's your intent. For what purpose do you want clipless for? Because I would say at the end of the day, you definitely need to exploit the options, right? Especially from an intermediate. Like, are you doing more strength training? Are you doing sprint work? Are you recommitted to improving your speed every week by doing those exercises and drills? Okay. So what should he do? Let's see here. What was the question again? What advice can you give to somebody that has you? Sorry, man, I can't read. This is really small. what advice can you give to somebody that has raced with flats pretty much forever? If you're going to do it, again, exploit ways to increase your power through strength training or sprint training, recommit to that. If you still want to clip in, then I would definitely clip in. But if you're going to do it, you want to learn how to clip in and out first before you go to track. That's my number one advice. Okay. And then once you get to the track, honestly, doing a lot of the skills, I would say my first intimidation, if I can recall, if I can get back into my model of the world, looking through my own eyes when I clipped in and got on the gate, doing a gate was a little bit intimidating at first because everything did move and react faster. So I had to get used to that. I would say my fear was I didn't want to hit the gate because I didn't want to clip out. But that went away after about 1 or 2 starts. So clipless pedals, from a skill standpoint, you want to work on your gate starts. You want to work on your manual, your pumping, and your turning, especially in the turns. You're going to feel vulnerable because you're going to feel like if someone bumps you, you're just going to tip over. And so you're going to want to practice turning with your clipless pedals. And, maybe you could find a partner and bump around a little bit slowly in the turns. And that way you can get used to it. I would say it's more of a reprogramming of being comfortable with clipless pedals. But I would say it's not that big of a deal, right? Like I would say that like there seems to be a big deal that, oh man, when you get on clips, man, like it's going to be harder to ride your bike. And honestly, it's neither here nor there, right? If you've been racing for 20 years with flat pedals, you're going to make an easy transition into clipless pedals, as opposed to the 12-year-olds, especially if you've been racing since you were 5, right? And you're 11 expert this year, you're going to be 12 next year. And that's going to mean that you're going to be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 6 years. That's like halfway to mastery on being on clipless pedals. Then all of a sudden you're forced to raise flats. That's going to be really, really tough. It's going to be hard, right? We already addressed it in the beginning of this video. If you guys are showing up, maybe you can watch it on the replay and we talk about how to make that transition from clipless pedals back to flats. That's really funny. I never thought we'd be having that conversation. All right. Are we clear here? And I want to get to Mark's question. Why do you need clips is a better question for me. And please forgive me if I didn't answer that clearly. But I would say at the end of the day, I don't think anyone needs clips, Mark. I would say at the end of the day, it's a preference. I know for me, I preferred, listen, I was the last one to go from flat pedals to clips. I was I had no behavior flexibility. I was so rigid. I did not want to change. And it wasn't until I had a real big chip on my shoulder. There was a race in 2000. It was in 2000 when all the double A pros showed up to Bakersfield. All my teammates showed up with clipless pedals. I didn't get the memo. I didn't have a pair of clips. I didn't have a pair of clipless shoes. I still had my flat pedals. I made the main. I was the only guy in the main. And straight up, maybe it was a mental placebo. Oh man, they all have clips. Now they're faster. Or maybe straight up, they were faster. But there was a couple guys that decided to clip in the week or 2 prior, and they were just straight up going crazier, faster than everyone in the class. And for a couple people, especially some of my GT teammates, that inspired the change. They were like, you know what, that's it. I'm racing clips next week, right? I'm racing clips next week. And I didn't know if they were for real or not, but the whole entire class, except for me, clipped in. I still made the main, but, could I have won? Because I think I got like 7th or something. I was really one of the last guys to do it. And I, if anyone knew me back then, I was like, we don't need this. So I agree with you, Mark. Unless you're a double A pro and you're fighting for, and your contract is up and it's a way for you to protect your rice bowl and your mortgage, then yeah, you probably don't need clips. At this point, for the rest of us, it's pretty much a preference. Me personally, I prefer them now because I recognize that I'm actually safer from slipping pedals. And I had a big fear of slipping pedals because I've had some accidents where I slipped pedals and those were some of my worst crashes. Awesome questions here. Let's see here. Okay, comments. Jacob James says, I only went to clips because I was chasing fast guys and slipping and sliding pedals. Yeah, there you go. Fair enough. Jenny Strife had a brain injury, can't have the foot speed without clips. Cool. I'm not going to, whatever you guys believe in terms of wanting to race with flats or race with clips is absolutely 100% true to you, right? At the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? That's all that matters. Anything you believe is 100% true to you. And I'm not here to necessarily change that belief. That's what you guys believe. Davey Parnell, I can't afford clips. AJ says save up. Okay. All right. Aaron Greenwright, going to clips for the same reason as Jacob James, slipped pedals and lost when I would have won or been a close second or third. Yeah, man, my hand's raised up with you. I don't like slipping pedals. It sucks. Aaron says, I feel more secure in clips when doing sprints. Yes, absolutely. Because you don't have to use the adductor or the abductor, the inner thigh muscle or the outer thigh muscle. Yeah, you just have to focus on pushing down. Someone says push pull. Yeah, I don't know about the pull part. Just focus on the push. Focus on the triple extension of the ankle, knee, and hip joints. Okay, man, this is a great show. You guys are doing really, really well. If you guys want, it's your choice. We could switch gears and move on from talking about pedal preference, or we can continuously talk about pedal preference. I'm going to look through some of the questions that you guys are going to ask in terms of as we go into Ask Coach G section here right after. Hey guys, I have a question. What would it do for you if you could enhance your power out of the gate, enhance your sprint speed down the first straight, enhance your skills, enhance your mental performance mind state? What would that do for your racing or your kids' racing? If you're seeing the value of enhancing your BMX performance, consider joining the community of BMX Training Pro and get the same access my Olympic athletes have enjoyed, as well as thousands of BMXers all over the world. Some members use the access to improve their gate start techniques. Some also use the access to keep them motivated to train, and you'll find your reason when you gain access and join BMX Training Pro today.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now.
Nitro with the nice flow.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now. Let's go. Stay focused, here the heat come. Concentrate to the sound of the beat drum. Yeah. Start it up, take it back now. Check it out. This is how it's going down. Yeah.
All right, looking through some of these questions, I see Alana has a question. I'm going to answer it and get to that. Andy Lim talks about road cycling as part of training. And then, of course, let's see here. What else do we have? We'll come back to Mark. Mark's good. He's posing some really good questions. Mark Dern, thank you so much. I'm really grateful for this. He made a comment. It's just as bad when you come unclipped during a race from what I've seen. Yeah, man, you come unclipped, you're pretty much done. And I would say if you slip a pedal, you're pretty much done in terms of racing position. Of course, I'm talking and speaking through the model of a world of an elite pro. And so, yeah, again, for me, I've had some of my worst crashes with flat pedals. Didn't have an issue coming unclipped. The only time I ever found myself coming unclipped is when my Shimano SH51 cleats were worn out. And then it would just kind of do a click out and then click back in. And I would notice I would do that just in a turn. So after the moto, I would just switch out the cleats. No more problems. It's all about maintaining the equipment. Eric Rowe has a question. Okay, cool. So guys are having awesome questions here. Let's start with Alana. Thank you so much for showing up. Advice for Phoenix Winter Nationals. I have home field advantage, but what would you say to the riders? Okay. Yeah. What would I say to the riders? Which riders? To the riders that have the home field advantage? I've raced nationals that with the home field advantage thing. It's pretty fun. I would say I've done really darn well at a lot of them, right? I lived in Northern California, so we had the spring nationals. The spring nationals are always in Northern California, although it may be different this year because of COVID. Had a race in Sonoma, had a race in Santa Clara, and the one thing that I've noticed that the advantage I had over the other riders was the timing out of the gate, right? When you show up to a new track, riders are trying to figure out the timing, get used to it. It's different. When you're the local, unconsciously, you've already mastered the gate. So at the end of the day, the biggest advice that I could give is just to relax and trust that you have all the resources necessary to put down an awesome lap. You've already mastered your skills coming out of the gate. You've already mastered and understand every jump in line on the track. It's time to race with your head, meaning it's okay. You could think about racing strategy as opposed to skills of like, oh man, I got to make sure that I don't hit the gate or I'm coming out late, or, I'm not so sure about that second jump, man. It's like, I feel like the front end's coming up. I'm going to loop out. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You could focus on tactics and strategy, and that's way better, right? So go for it. Set big expectations and have some fun. Why not? Thank you, Alana. Let's see here. Aaron Greenreich, he maybe has a comment. You may want to mention the difference in types of clip pedals. The first clip pedals I got were an older style for road bikes that didn't clip in for both sides. I don't know if, Aaron, are you talking to me? I'm not, Aaron, please forgive me. I'm not going to talk about equipment, but yeah, clipless pedals, you definitely want mountain bike or BMX specific clip pedals. Let's see here. Eric Rowe, what's up, coach? Does strength training with weights slow your leg speed down? Depends on what kind of strength training that you do. Now, here's the thing. Everyone has a different internal representation of what strength training means. So what does strength training mean to you? What it means to me may not be the same as you, and it may not seem to be the same as a personal trainer, because when you go to the gym, personal trainers are going to focus on health. You're going to want a sport-specific speed coach, right? That's in the gym. And so when at the end of the day, BMX is all about explosive power. What is power? In essence, let's just break it down. It's fundamentally force times speed, right? Force times speed. So you could look at it as getting stronger, right, is going to be the limiting factor to power, and how fast you discharge and access those muscles is going to help you increase power. So the tricky part is, okay, well, what part is strength work? Okay, well, strength work is going to be resistance, right? But here's the thing. A lot of people tend to focus on, doing like 50% of their 1 rep max and then doing 10, 12, or in CrossFit culture, it's as many reps as possible, and they're fatiguing the muscle. Now, that's a different kind of strength. That's more of a power endurance, muscular endurance, right? Okay, that's going to be, listen, CrossFit or anything where you're working to fatigue is geared towards firefighters that are trying to run up a stairwell with a heavy hose. Okay, you need that muscular endurance. BMX is explosive force, right? It's maximum force in a short amount of time. We have to be able to access as many muscle motor units as possible and discharge it in a short amount of time. So getting stronger in my model of the world is going to be increasing strength, increasing your 1 rep max. Now, you don't have to be going into the gym and doing 1 rep maxes all the time, but it's good to find out what your baseline is. If you're new to lifting, a 1 rep max may not be smart. You might want to find out maybe through doing a 3 rep max or a 5 rep max, and then working off of percentages and focusing on increasing strength and focusing on increasing your 1 rep max, or in this case, if you're new, 3, 5 rep max. Okay, now you're increasing strength. Next, you got to be able to increase speed. Okay, so something like a rate of force development. You could use your own body weight and do plyometric exercises. There's also awesome triple extension exercises such as Olympic lifts. You don't have to be an Olympic lifter, but you could also do like a first pull, like a high pull, right? You don't have to do a hang clean and finish the hang clean. You could just do the first part where you get the triple extension of the hip, knee, and ankle joint, and you could benefit a lot from just focusing on that, right? So again, what kind of strength training would actually make you slower? I would say lightweight, doing tons of reps will not necessarily make you faster. And then the problem is that when people do strength training, they don't give themselves enough time to recover before they get on the bike. When they get on the bike, oh man, my legs are heavy, and maybe it's a local night of racing and they're not feeling as snappy. So all of a sudden, they've decided to label, well, strength training makes me slower, it makes me tired. I don't feel snappy. That's not necessarily true. You just have to have a proper BMX training program, which brings me to a great idea. Check out bmxtraining.com. There's a free trial. Go check out, like the off-season training program. That's a great program for you guys right now that are not racing here in America. If you guys are racing, like if you're down under, there's like a 21-day faster first straight program. All of my programs have strength training because I'm a big advocate of strength training. Again, power includes force times speed. So if we increase force and do it properly and focus on quality, right, instead of quantity, mean quantity of reps, because you can go into the gym and just think, I'm going to go in and do, 5 sets of 12, do 60 reps of squats. Is it going to help you? It's going to make you tired for sure. It may help you in other sports, but not necessarily BMX. BMX is pretty much 1, 2, 3, right? 3 pedals to the first jump. Well, 3 pedals to the 30, 2 pedals to the 30-foot mark. Please forgive me, but 1, 2, 3, right? The race is over in 3 seconds, right? We already know who the established leader is for the most part. Now I'm talking at the higher elite levels, but it's helpful, and you may find it helpful to increase your maximum force. Thank you, Eric, for the question. Okay, let's go to Andy Lim. Let's see here. Andy Lim says, what's a good distance for road cycling as part of training in the off season? Great question. Andy, are you familiar with the app called Strava? I'm on there as Greg Romero. It's on Strava. Strava doesn't pay me. Listen, go on there. You can see what I'm doing. At the end of the day, I don't really go by miles. I go by resistance over time. I focus on my effort over time. So, for BMX racers, if you guys are looking to improve your aerobic capacity, for what purpose? We'll talk about that here in a second. But if you guys are looking to do that, anywhere from 30 minutes to 60 minutes is more than enough for you guys. What's the advantage of doing aerobic work, especially in the off season? Well, number one, I had to burp, excuse me. Number one, oh man, that was pretty funny. Number one, when you're more fit, you actually are going to be able to recover faster in between efforts. And when I mean efforts, I mean, okay, there's 2 ways to improve your ability to recover faster between efforts of, say, sprints or even laps. When you have a developed aerobic capacity, you're going to be able to help facilitate metabolic waste. Okay. And then of course you're going to have a little bit more fuel in the tank to get through a day or a complete session of training or a complete day of racing. And it's going to help you recover from day to day. Okay. So there's some real indirect benefits from doing aerobic capacity work, but at the end of the day, it's not necessary. If you want, Andy, you could focus on doing interval work, and that's going to help you with your ability to recover between sprints and also doing, weight training in the gym and also doing gate starts or any kind of lap work on the track when you get to the track. Again, I go by time. So, anywhere from 30 minutes to 60 minutes, however long that takes you, in terms of like miles on the road, that's going to depend on things like wind, elevation, barometric pressure, resistance, what kind of tires you're running, what kind of air you're running. Rolling resistance will play a factor. And so you got to really throw miles out the door. I even tell all my other cyclist friends, like I don't even bother with miles. So many people are so focused on miles, and I run a power meter. So I'm like, look, if I'm going to work on my aerobic capacity today and be in that zone 2 of like 185 watts to 220 watts, I'm just going to read my power meter and watch normalized power over time and make sure I stay within that parameter. It's really easy to do. And then it gets really tech because I use a tool. It's called TSS. It's called Training Stress Score. So that pretty much tells me how much training stress that I'm actually imposing on my body. I'm not using heart rate. I'm using power, and I'm also looking at the kilojoules burned as well. All right, but that's a whole nother channel, right? Like I need to start a cycling channel because I love cycling. It's awesome. What other questions we have here? Let's see. JP says, thanks, coach, for the subject. You just convinced me to go clipped. Why not? I'm already clipped on my road bike. Yeah, man, give it a try, Give it a try, and then if you're going to clip in, again, the first thing that you want to do is just make sure you get BMX style clips, right? Aaron Greenreich touched on that. Get BMX style shoes, and then make sure that the clips are loose, and then just practice clipping in, clipping out, so you're comfortable on the BMX bike. I know if you're already clipped in on the road bike, you're used to clipping in, clipping out, but it is a little bit different because you are lower on the bike, and unless your seat's really high, like you're standing up the entire time, you don't get to just sit down and clip out like when you're at a stoplight on a road bike. So get used to that, and then do some figure 8 turns, and go through the progressions of your skills. Gate start, work on those, get comfortable, and then of course in terms of your progressions of your jumping skills, get used to pumping, manualing, picking up, and then jumping, right? Like you're gonna find that it's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. Oh yes, Anthony Grasher. He always comes up with strength training questions or input. Anthony, thanks for showing up to the show and participating, man. In regards to strength training, plyos more than once a week made me faster. One day is double leg plyos, the other is all single leg plyos. If you have a trainer, do the Coach G quarantine workout. Right on, man. So he had a comment. Yeah, that's great, man. Plyometrics are awesome. I have my riders do plyometrics with sprints. Of course, if you go into bmxtraining.com in the membership, you'll see some of the workouts. We actually do plyometrics with sprints as well. It's such a complementary. There's a thing called potentiation where you're actually waking up and turning on the neurological system, and when you do that, you have an opportunity to reprogram and take advantage of that pathway. So we warm up, do plyometrics first, and then we'll sprint. And you could do either way. I mean, you could do sprints and then do plyos, or do plyos and do sprints. Either way seems to be very, very beneficial. Any other questions? I have time. I hear the oven beeping. We're cooking dinner tonight. So I could take on a couple more questions. I'm looking for questions. Let's see here. Let me scroll to the top and see if I missed anything. Okay, Roscoe H. Any real reason for us to practice on flats at the track if clips are legal? I notice you suggest flats for certain days in some of your sprinting material. Yes, that's a great question. Now, I would say at the end of the day, the one thing that I don't necessarily advise anybody that wants to show up with flats at the track is to do gate starts. It's just different, right? It's awkward. It's different. So if you normally race with clips, I always suggest that you just ride the track with clips. Now, when it comes to sprinting, yes, I love sprinting on flat pedals because, again, we're able to engage muscles that we don't normally use, like the inner outer thigh muscle. And then, of course, we're also really isolating that triple extension of the ankle, knee, and hip in our pedal stroke by using flats. The one thing that you want to keep in mind with using flats is that it is a slower rate of discharge, right? It's slower in terms of the velocity execution of the pedal stroke. So what you want to use with flat pedals, the intention of using flat pedals is to increase the force side, right? Again, power is force times speed. Okay, so flat pedals is going to focus on a little bit more force. So that's what we're trying to improve in terms of the power curve. Okay, it's more of a strength speed exercise rather than a speed strength. Now, if you're going to do flat pedals, right, make sure when you go to the track, you race with clips or you ride with clips. Or maybe perhaps you can even do 1 or 2 sprints clipped in after your flat pedal workout is done. And that way you're not going to potentially reprogram the speed of discharge in your pedal stroke. Okay. My advanced riders, we don't necessarily need to do that. We do flat pedal sprint work, and then we just end on the pedals, whatever we're on. All right. So, yeah, great question. Thank you so much. Thank you. Aaron said he's got to run. See you later, man. Yeah, I'm taking off here soon. Roscoe H, the off-season strength training on Greg's side is awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's great. Davey Parnell, how do you pick up manual? Yeah, how do you pick up manual? Okay, so first off, you have to know how to manual, right? Okay, so I'm not going to go through the manual part, but you need to learn how to manual. And then from there, you want to learn how to and get comfortable with just picking up. Okay, so they're 2 separate exercises. Make sure you master each one individually. Make sure you're getting the manual progression correct, right? You're leaning back, you're pressing through the feet, and you're able to eye where the front tire needs to go down on the back side of the jump, and you're really, really comfortable with that. And you've reached the pass. Certainly, you've reached a point of conscious competence, right? And if not unconscious competence, which is mastery. Next, you want to focus on just simply picking up for things like rollers and get comfortable with that, because here's the thing. Sometimes when you pick up, you just kind of do a bunny hop, but when you go to pick up manual, you have to commit by shifting the hips back a little bit more. So it's almost like doing a coaster wheelie or a manual on the street. Back in the day, that's what we would call a coaster wheelie. We just push the hips back to get the front wheel up and start doing a wheelie without pedaling, right? Coaster wheelie. So it's a combination of doing a manual and also it's basically doing a pre-manual up the lip, okay? And then you want to make sure that you're looking at the section of the jump on where you want to place the front wheel down and look past the point on the knuckle of the roller that you want to put the front wheel down on. The trick is that once you get the front wheel over and the back wheel is going over, you have to push through the feet again, right? You have to, because when you're going up, your hips and knees and your feet are kind of doing this to absorb. And as you're committed to keeping the front end up, your hips and knees need to extend out again and push through the pedals in an effort to keep the front end up. So you're kind of using the backside of that roller to propel off and generate speed and keep that momentum and keeping the front wheel up. What keeps the front wheel up is how much you're going to push through the feet and how much you're going to continuously commit with the hips being over the rear axle, right? And then, of course, where your eyes are. So you have 3 things going on. You have where the eyes are looking, how much pressure you're pushing through the feet as you're going through the backside of the first part that you just picked up on, and how far your hips are back. 3 things going on there. It's a lot, right? So the best way you could do it is just pick a small, in the rhythm section, maybe pick out, you're just gonna have to pick a jump that you're really comfortable with, whether it's a small jump or a big jump. I would go with a small jump. That's a double, and just practice picking up manually before that, and then try to keep your front end up, and try to manual off the back roller and keep the front wheel up. You'll find that it's not that hard, especially if you're already comfortable with manualing. It's not that hard to do. But great question, and it's really, you know, for me, I have to like get a visual and then kinesthetically feel it, and then, you know, give it to you in an auditory version, right, over the internet. Man, you gotta love the internet. This is the Monday night clinic, is it not? It's a clinic with Coach G. It's awesome, man. I really appreciate it because I love teaching. Any more questions? Guys, I think this was a fun one. I think we had, I think we sparked a lot of different thoughts when it comes to getting back on flat pedals. And then of course, you know, transferring back over to clipless pedals for a lot of you guys that are looking to use it as an advantage, right? Trying to make those marginal gains through the use of clipless pedals. All right. Any other questions? Let's see. All right, guys. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for showing up. I am grateful for the opportunity to be your coach, as always. And yeah, you guys, make sure you guys share the video. Share the video. If you guys want to support the channel, support me, just do it just by sharing the video. Check out bmxtraining.com. There's a 2-day free trial there. If you guys ever have any questions or comments, make sure you guys leave them in the comment section below. I always do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. And again, you guys have a safe, wonderful week. And yeah, let's finish off this 2020 with a good bang of getting some good training in. I've always traditionally have always had a great workout on New Year's Eve, because it's just like, you know what? I want closure on the year, and I want to enter the new year feeling good and awesome. And so hopefully you guys have the opportunity to do some training on New Year's Eve. And trust me, I have gotten over Christmas, so had a great Christmas. But yeah, let's end the 2020 year on a good note, and let's power into 2021. And yeah, I'll see you guys at the races.